This is what happens when you decide to attack the U.S. Navy. On January 6, 2025, a U.S. aircraft carrier was minding its own business in the Red Sea, when all of a sudden, multiple fast-moving contacts appeared on their radar screens. With just seconds to react, U.S. sailors had to shoot down these threats. What happened after is a good reason why you don't touch the boats. At 1740 local time, the guided missile destroyer USS Gravely was about 20 miles away from the carrier when she saw some telltale blips on her spy radar. Within 2 seconds, Spy's command and decision system ran about 20 million calculations and came to just one conclusion every time: missiles were inbound. Upon confirming the inbound missiles, the Gravely sounded the alarm and went to general quarters. As sailors rushed to their battle stations, the ship alerted the carrier to scram, and she kicked on her 2 offline engines. In about 90 seconds, Gravely would be at full power, steaming toward the carrier at 30 knots. But in this fight, seconds are what separate success from failure. The electronic warfare corner of combat soon confirmed that the signals coming from the missiles indicated they were 2 Charlie 802s inbound. The Charlie 802 is the Houthis' favorite anti-ship weapon. With a range of around 150 miles, this subsonic missile can only travel at around 610 miles per hour and delivers a 364-pound armor-piercing warhead. Despite being subsonic, the Charlie 802 does have a sea-skimming feature. This function allows the missile to fly just a couple of feet off the water to stay below Spy's minimum elevation, or at least try to. At a range of around 150 miles, the missiles would be within range of the ship's SM-2 missiles in a matter of seconds. The SM-2 stands for Standard Missile 2 and is the bread and butter of the Navy's air defense. These missiles are capable of reaching speeds of Mach 3.5 and a max range of around 105 miles. This is because the Gravely just fired 2 SM-2 Block 3 Alpha at the Charlie 802, since the Block 3 Alphas are a less sophisticated, older variant perfect for this low and slow threat. The ship will preserve its more advanced SM-2 missiles for higher capability threats. But of course, any missile can have high capabilities, if it hits its target. This is why, after firing its first salvo, Spy sees a giant debris field with several large chunks of missile that could indicate the missiles are still inbound. Just to make sure, the Gravely double taps the threats and fires 2 more missiles towards the debris field. By 1757, Spy indicates that the ship has splashed all threats at a safe range of 75 miles, but the crew has little time to celebrate. At 1800, Spy picks up 4 more contacts. However, these are much slower and smaller than the Charlie 802s they just shot down. After analyzing their signal emissions, the crew determines these are 4 Shahed 136 attack drones inbound. With a top speed of 115 miles per hour, these drones carry a 50-pound warhead. Although getting hit by them won't sink the ship, who wants to get punched in the face willingly? The Navy sure doesn't. Because these drones are less advanced, the ship's captain decides not to waste a missile on them. After all, expending a $3 million missile on a $5,000 drone is part of Iran's game plan anyways. Instead, the skipper lulls the Houthis into a sense of security as the drones close on his ship to within 10 miles. That is when he pulls out his secret weapon. As the Gravely comes about to show her stern towards the drones, she is not doing so in an act of defiance or to run away. Rather, she is unmasking her batteries to fire her Sea Whiz at the drones. The close-in weapon system, known as Sea Whiz, is normally the last-ditch effort in a missile engagement. However, it is also used to take out slow-moving drones, helicopters, and surface contacts too. At 10 miles away, the Sea Whiz's radar begins tracking and developing fire control solutions for all the drones. When they get to 3 miles, the captain orders batteries release, and the drones are met with a literal wall of lead. The Sea Whiz can lob 20mm shells at a rate of 3,000 to 4,500 per minute. After engaging one drone, it takes just a few milliseconds for it to engage another. In less time than it takes for a human to even register that they're coming, all 4 drones are now just useless junk floating on the water's surface. With confirmation of the successful shoot-down, the crew lets the carrier know they can stand down. Although the Houthis later claim to have hit the Truman, this footage released soon after shows nothing out of the ordinary as planes take off and land. But despite not getting a scratch, the US was now going to remind the Houthis how bad they messed up. Despite being quite well known and an army that operates in the open, figuring out where exactly these missiles and drones came from is not as easy as you might think. This is because with Yemen being a war-torn country for more than a decade, there are tons of dudes walking around with weapons of various sizes, and not all of them are bad guys. To separate the rebel fighters from government forces and Saudi troops from the Houthis, the US relies on some pretty amazing technology to fix their positions. You see this satellite? While you might think a satellite like this is used to help give us GPS and global communications, well, you'd be right. However, satellites like these can have a very nifty purpose. Take a look at this picture. While this might look like your 4-year-old's attempt to draw Santa Claus, it is actually a thermal image of Yemen. If you see all the areas that are blue, purple, or black, that means these are cold areas. You can see that outside of a few major population centers, basically the whole place is cold at night because of the desert and lack of infrastructure. Because of this, anything in these cold areas that is different sticks out like a sore thumb. And that is exactly what happened here. Because this satellite carried advanced thermal imagers courtesy of the National Geospatial Agency and Defense Intelligence Agency, it was able to detect a 27-degree Fahrenheit difference in areas outside of Sana'a and Sada. This stark temperature difference is a classic sign of underground activity in the desert, which is characteristic of the Houthis storing weapons there. But the US can't just delete a patch of Earth because of one thermal picture. That is where these two aircraft come into play. This aircraft right here is the MQ-9 Reaper, and this one is the RC-135 rivet joint. Both of these aircraft are used for ISR missions, though the Reaper can be armed with a wide range of weapons. But for this mission on January 7th, these aircraft are busy confirming the areas pointed out by the satellites. As the Reaper loiters above the target areas, it takes photos over its 27-hour mission before heading back to an airfield in Djibouti. The photos it provides show clearly that even from 50,000 feet in the air, there are a series of underground bunker entrances and tunnels. The aircraft's 30 personnel operate sophisticated signals collection equipment that backs up these photos with the Houthis' own communications about the sites. With the two missile storage facilities now firmly fixed by 3 different sources, at around 0200 local time on January 8th, the Harry S. Truman, the Gravely, and the Carney orchestrate something that can be best described as a symphony of death. As F-18 Super Hornets roar off the deck of the Truman, the crews of the 2 destroyers are finalizing their Tomahawk launch plans. If everything goes smoothly, the 2 storage facilities will get blasted with Tomahawks minutes before opening an even bigger hole for the bunker busters to go through. And it's time for the crescendo. At a speed of around 600 miles per hour, it will take the F-18s 30 minutes to cover the 300-mile distance to the targets. At around 550 miles per hour, this means the Tomahawks will be about 3 minutes slower than the F-18s. This is why at precisely 2:05 that morning, the Gravely and Carney fire a barrage of 6 Tomahawks each for 12. As the missiles reach their first pre-planned waypoint, the classified mission library takes over. This mission library, which is made by planners off the ship at higher headquarters, is the actual waypoints the missile will follow over land. These waypoints consider a variety of things, including terrain height, enemy radar coverage, and environmental data. The Tomahawks scream along these waypoints. However, if you look at this Tomahawk in flight, it keeps changing its altitude. This is thanks to something called TERCOM. TERCOM is short for Terrain Contour Matching and is basically how the Tomahawk doesn't just launch itself into any of these mountains along its path. By using a built-in altimeter, the missiles can measure distances to the ground in real time to say just 50 to 80 meters above it. The missile can do this for its entire operational range of around 1,000 nautical miles. But how does it know where it's going? Since, after all, that thermal image from earlier showed there really ain't a whole lot to Yemen in the way of identifying features. This is where its second cool tool comes in. Known as Digital Scene Matching Area Correlation, or DSMAC, this system allows for satellite images of the areas along its waypoints to be uploaded to the mission library. As the missile goes along its track, it continually takes pictures and compares them to the mission library. If they match, the missile knows it's on track. By doing this, DSMAC's creators found they could increase its accuracy by an astounding 90%. And these targets were part of that statistic that night. At precisely 02:38, the Tomahawks slam into the bunkers, delivering nearly 1,000 pounds of explosives with each go. In minutes, the entrances are burning and smoking in the night, which helps the F-18 pilots greatly as they swoop in for the finishing blow. When you look at this F-18, you'll notice that while there are 2 J-dams attached under each wing, there is a cylindrical pod by Station 5 just next to the forward fuselage. This is called the AN/ASQ-228 Sniper Pod and will make the Houthis have a very bad day. The purpose of the Sniper Pod is to basically be a laser designator to guide the weapons onto the target. The pod emits a coded laser beam that allows any of the GBU series bombs a beeline to the target. It can also provide GPS coordinates to JDAMs. Once the pilots lock on, they release their weapons and watch as the sniper pods guide them right into the holes made by the Tomahawks. It's a direct hit. Though exact Houthi casualty figures were not disclosed, we know that there were 2 massive craters where there used to be 2 weapon storage sites. The attack caused at least 10 secondary detonations from about 30 to 50 Houthi cruise missiles going off. And although the attack stopped Houthi attacks for only about 6 weeks, it was yet another reminder of why Houthis should not touch the boats. Bye for now.